Hey guys, it's Tony, and we're back on the bench. And this evening, we're going to be doing another spinning reel service here on a beautiful Daiwa W-4000 Whisker spinning reel. Okay, I picked this up not too long ago. It's beautiful blue toned color here. I don't really know a lot about this particular reel. It looks very similar in nature to like a Silver Series reel, but it's very light in weight. It's got a lightweight graphite spool here. All right, but we're going to be getting into it here, taking this reel apart. I don't think there's anything really wrong with it other than the fact that I couldn't help but notice that when you turn this spool, it's like I can almost hear the clicker tongue in there moving, but it's not really moving as much as I would anticipate it to. So we're definitely going to have a look at that here. So we'll get into that right now and we'll inspect this and see what's going on there. Okay, but I'd say, this could be considered a saltwater reel for its size. It'd probably make a really good catfish reel, I bet, for sure. All right, so we've got a drag stack system in there. We'll get to that in just a minute. But yeah, so you can see you've got this click wheel here, and it's not making contact really well with that tongue. My guess, just by looking at this, the problem lies with the fact that there's no shim. There's supposed to be a shim here, and it's not attached under here. So somehow that went missing. Now, having said that, I went on ahead here, and I happen to have a remedy for this. So if you go to the hardware store, like any regular hardware store, you should be able to find these. And I've done this before when I've been needing shims for this kind of purpose. And you can purchase these washers. If I can get one out of the bag here. And they're just about the right thickness for that kind of application. And these are just, nylon plastic, black in color. And I do believe if we get this on here, that's going to remedy that problem, because it's going to bring some thickness to the equation here so that that can make contact with that tongue. There we go. All right, so very easy there. Let's get into the drag stack now, and let's see what kind of shape that's in. Given the condition of the reel, though, so far, I'd say, everything is in pretty good shape here. We just want to do a cleaning, basically. So we've got some washers here. Nice, thick drag washers on this stack here. It does look like we might have a leather washer here that's kind of a little stuck here, which is not an uncommon problem. Yeah, so that's not an unusual sight. Keep taking these out here. Looks like we've got this is kind of a capture-like washer here. Kind of an interesting design. But we'll clean this up. Clean these washers up and put them all back. So let me just go back in the reverse order with these. Got the keyed washer, and drag washer, and metal washer. And put our retainer back in there. It's kind of hard to get your fingers in this particular setup here, I find, just because the hole is pretty small. Sometimes using a a screwdriver from the side will help you in that situation there. Okay, so that's done. Let's get into the rest of the reel here and take our handle off. Yeah, I haven't seen many of these out there. This is made in Japan. Right, so handle comes off. And, we'll just do some cleaning here as we go. And I don't anticipate that we're going to need to do a lot of cleaning, really, given the state of all this. We'll do a little work right here. Just do a little dab of oil there. I also like to do some here on this handle. It looks like this is a plastic handle here. That'll get rid of some of that chatter that we just heard. I love this blue color though. Very, very pretty finish on a reel like this. So Phillips head screws that have to come out. And this reel, of course, incorporates the bail slam here, as some of us call it, where you tip the bail back, okay, and then you run it over like that, and it hits that post. And there's a lot of people that don't care for that feature. I will admit it is rather reliable most of the time, but a lot of folks they like an automatic bail system, essentially, that's done, from inside the rotor instead of banging on the reel and whatnot. So, but it's an older school design, you can say. But all the silver series, have that set up. The gold series, a lot of the older black gold series. Okay. Yeah, very clean in here. Old grease, no big deal. Cam set up here. Looks like we got a ball bearing here with a washer. Okay, so this is a sealed ball bearing, and you want to make sure that faces back outward, going out of the reel, whereas the exposed end should be facing inward. Okay, we're going to take some penetrating oil to these parts while we get into this here, and we'll clean up here a little bit real quick as well. Got our cam and stud. I put all those pieces together there, and then we've got a nice big main gear. God, look at the teeth on that. Pretty nice. Okay, but yeah, I mean, everything in here is very, very clean, which is really nice. Okay, we just got to clean up some old grease here. So we'll get into that kind of as we go. We're just using Q-tips and some penetrating oil, WD-40. This happens to be CRC Power Lube, which I'm kind of running out of. But you can see, we got some old stuff on there. Okay, we'll get into this block here, take this set screw out. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what this reel would really be appropriate for. I honestly would use this for freshwater catfishing, probably. Something along those lines. Okay, so you got your main shaft, your block. Okay, and then we've got another bearing down here. It's probably a 3-ball bearing design, I'm guessing. Yeah, 3-ball bearing. You got a main bearing, and then you got your bearings that are on the sides here. Pop that bearing out there. Okay, and then we've got this nut that's got to come off. And I was going to say it looks like it's slightly bigger than a 10. It's probably a 12. Yeah, so 12 mil. Looks like there's no set screw to hold this in place. So you want to make sure that you have it snug when you put it back on, but don't over tighten it. And we'll gently pull this off. There we are. Okay, looks like we've got this retaining ring here. And you just don't want to lose that, basically. Looks like we just got some old grease on here, but this reel, it's very, very clean. Outside of the old grease and everything, I'm not seeing a lot of evidence of any dirt or salt spray or anything like that. I'm almost under the impression that the reel may have not have ever been fished, so which is a possibility. Okay, so we've got our ratchet here. And pull the ratchet off. And then we've got that piece there. I like to lay out all these pieces very carefully so that I know how they go back in. And pictures are also very, very helpful in these situations when you're not familiar with the reel. Don't have a schematic on this reel. I didn't bother looking for one either, but I figured it's probably a very similar, familiar type design to the Silver Series, which I do have a Silver Series 4000C, which I'm going to be bringing up here before long. Okay. So we'll see, yeah. We'll take this out. Pinion gear and main bearing. Okay. So I've got all those parts out here. This bearing is a sealed bearing, so we're not going to be able to get access to that. But what we're going to do here, and I'm going to do this off camera just for the sake of saving time, I'm going to spend some time with this penetrating oil, the Q-tips, some toothbrushes, brass wire brushes, cleaning up all these parts. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about all those steps as we rebuild the reel. Okay, so we're back, and boy, it's a good thing that we spent some time cleaning up all these parts here. I wanted to point out, you can see right here on these Q-tips just how hardened up and, you know, wax-like that grease became on these Q-tips here, right? And that's what happens over time is this grease, it hardens. This is actually off of the main gear, and you can kind of see how it's shaped. Okay, well, this definitely affects the performance of the reel over time. Okay, and it gets up into all these cavities and crevices and stuff where it's really hard to get to and difficult to clean sometimes. And so it does pay off to take the extra time to get in there and clean all those areas out the best that you can. You know, I'm still kind of picking out some more right here. You can tell it's hardened, and it's kind of like a wax basically. Okay, so we've got all that out of the way now finally, and everything's looking really good there. So we want to go back in the reverse order here and, you know, rebuild the reel at this point. So we're going to start with our pinion gear, and we're going to get our Penn Precision Blue Grease out. And we're going to take a brush, and we're going to grease up these teeth with some fresh grease. And we're going to go from there. But yeah, I'd say that the bearings are in great shape with this reel. There's no issues there. It didn't have any bearing noise or anything to begin with. I honestly don't think this reel was fished. I think a lot of that grease is probably original grease. Now, once again, this is a sealed bearing here. So what we've done is we've hit it with some penetrating oil here, this CRC Power Lube. Okay, let that soak in. And then we're going to top it off just with a little bit of Reel X. And that's all we can do. We can't do more than that, basically. Okay, but that Reel X oil, it'll work its way all around the whole bearing there, and it'll help prevent any rust buildup or anything. All right, but we can see, you know, it spins, you know, pretty freely on there. Okay. So we'll put that back in position right now, like it is here. Okay. We're also going to hit a little reel oil here on this anti-reverse lever. Okay. And then as well as down here at the base and up here at the ball joint. Okay, and then we don't want to forget these pieces here, but first we'll put our screws back in, and I'm just going to hit them just with a little extra power lube. Even though it's not going into metal here per se. Yeah, I think this is all a complete graphite design because it is quite light, I have to admit. And we'll spin up these set screws here. Just make sure you don't over tighten them. The only purpose of these is just to prevent the bearing from moving and the pinion gear essentially. And we'll put these pieces back in position with the click ratchet. Okay. Now, we're going to have a quick look at our rotor. There's nothing wrong with this. You don't need to take off the bail if the bail's working right, you know, and it's firing correctly. You can just put some oil or some penetrating lube there on the seams. Okay, and then also underneath here, which in this case there is no internal trip for the bail because we've got that stud that sticks out, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, line roller seems to be good there. All right, so now this, they gave us these holes here to help us guide this piece over this piece here, I believe. So we're gonna have to try this out, but this is part of the anti-reverse setup, and you got to line those up just right, and you might have to spin the gear there so that you can get these lined up. It's really difficult to see, but I'm pretty sure you got to get those synced up just right, and then go back with your rotor nut, 12 mil. Don't over tighten it, just make it gently snug. Okay, and that spins pretty nicely there. So yeah, the anti-reverse is working properly there because you can spin it back and forth. And the anti-reverse on this is kind of interesting too, because it only has a half turn like that, which is interesting. So we've cleaned up these bearings, and it appears that they're both the same. Okay, but we've cleaned them up really well, and you know they're running pretty smoothly. We're going to take that Real X oil to those bearings right now. And then don't forget, you want the bearing side facing in to the reel and the seal facing outward. And that'll prevent any salt or dirt or anything like that from getting into the mix. Okay, and then we've got our main drive line. We've taken some 4.0 steel wool, make this nice and smooth. We're going to go in with the blue grease here. So as you can see, you don't need a lot of fancy things to service reels. You need some basic household things, and then, you know, some some pretty simple products like this blue grease, Penn Precision blue grease, which is very easy to come by. And then the Real X oil. I really do like the Real X oil, not just because of the product itself, but because of the bottle that the product comes in with, that nipple. I like being able to use that nozzle basically for a lot of these reels that I work on. And then we got our block here. We've cleaned it up really well. We're gonna apply the blue grease here. And also, while we're here, we're just going to take a little blue grease down here to that track. It'll help set that in place there. Got the set screw, and then we got our main gear. Again, Real X oil here. And we'll spin this up like so. And then we got the main gear here. We've cleaned this off really well. The only thing we haven't done is taken some 4-0 steel wool. Make sure that's nice and smooth. Surface there, both sides. And we'll go in with that blue grease here on the shaft. And also all these gear teeth. And I have to say, these gear teeth are pretty impressive on this gear set here. Nothing to laugh at. And you want to make sure that you get some around this ring here for your cam as well. Okay, we'll set that back in position. But I like this reel a lot just because of the simplicity of the design, which is very similar to the older BG and Gold series and Silver series and whatnot. Okay, then we've got these pieces here, the cam and then the stud. We're just going to apply the blue grease to these right now. We'll hit both sides. It should look something like that. And that pin rides down below here in the hole on that block. And then we've got our shim spacer, goes in there. We've cleaned out this bearing really well. I'm going to take the Real X to that. And remember, you want the seal to be facing out of the reel towards the outside, so that would mean the exposed side faces towards the main gear there. And we'll pop the lid back on. And then we've got 3 screws here. Just going to hit them with a little bit of what's left of this penetrating oil, which isn't much. But that's always a good tactic just to prevent rust buildup on those screws. And we'll tighten these up one by one here. But yeah, not very difficult to work on. And like I said, we were able to remedy that problem with the spool click tongue just by adding a basic little shim that you can get at any local hardware store. And I'm not saying that's the fix for every encounter that you have with that problem necessarily, but it certainly worked for this. So, okay, now to top this off, we're just going to do a little blue grease here on this shaft. Pop that in, and then we're going to put our handle screw back in here. Pop our spool back on top. Yeah, nice reel. And we're just going to clean this off a little bit. Clean off some of the residual oil and grease that we got going on. And we're going to try it out. Yep. Anti-reverse is good. Make sure the bail's firing well. Yep. Nice strong fire on that. And then tighten the drag down a little bit. Make sure that that's holding well. Nice smooth drag on this, that's for sure. And make sure you back it off when you're not using the reel. So there you have it. That is the Daiwa W-4000 Whisker 3-ball bearing spinning reel, all serviced and ready to go. And thanks again for watching. This is Tony with Back on the Bench. If you liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please make sure you do subscribe and hit the notification button. That way it'll give you all the updates as to when there are new videos being posted. And I do intend to have quite a few more coming out shortly, so make sure you stay tuned for those, and we'll see you next time.